My name's Tom Reiss. I'm the product manager for Fiori, and I'd like to give you an update on SAP Fiori 3 and in particular the end-to-end processes in the Intelligent Enterprise. So how it's going to be helping the Intelligent Enterprise Intelligent Suite, so beyond just S/4HANA. Here the usual disclaimer. Basically, of course, our plans can change, so that's why the disclaimer is there. Okay, so very briefly introduction, what is the Intelligent Suite? And then available today, as you can see, we already have Fiori 3 available today. First steps, however. So Fiori 3, we have a vision, a target for Fiori 3 where we want to go, and we're going to be introducing that in a stepwise approach. So the first step is available today, but it's not like, oh wow, we already have everything of Fiori 3 available. That's going to come probably over the next couple of years. So it's not just a couple of months. It really is a journey to get there. And so the bulk of the presentation will be actually about the Fiori 3 target design, what we're aiming to achieve, and how we're going to go about it. And then finally, just as a wrap-up, the path to Fiori 3, what's available now, what's likely to be coming next. So first of all, as an introduction, Intelligent Enterprise, what is that, and Fiori 3? So you've probably seen this slide already. It's been around for a while. Basically, what is the Intelligent Enterprise framework that SAP has? Of course, at the top, the Intelligent Suite. So at the end of the day, you want, of course, your business to run optimally. And so we're providing software for that purpose, business software, the Intelligent Suite, the digital core, of course, S/4HANA and the cloud solutions as an Intelligent Suite. Then at the bottom, we have the digital platform, of course, so the SAP Cloud Platform. And Jürgen showed in the keynote how we're expanding that, how we're really making that also a business platform to support your business. And of course, then in the middle, if you like, the intelligent technologies, of course, like machine learning, conversational AI, IoT, analytics, all these things to really bring your whole business to the next level with the Intelligent Suite. We've been listening to you as our customers, and of course the number one pain point that you've been telling us is, hey guys, when we buy SAP software, we expect it to be integrated out of the box, right? And we know we still have a way to go there. This is a real focus topic for our board. Jürgen mentioned these various end-to-end processes like total workforce management that we're working on. And these are the focus processes, if you like, going across our various products, where we're working on providing out-of-the-box integration. And here now, of course, for today, the number 2 point you see there is a consistent best-in-class user experience. So there also, we're looking at making sure that if you're using more than one product as a user, you have a consistent user experience. I mean, obviously, if you only use one product, then you don't really mind what the other products look like. So, but of course, even there, we're working on having a consistent experience within the product and also across products as well. So both of those are important. And consistency really is a focus here. And as you can see here, what we've done is we've standardized on the SAP Fiori design as the target design for all of our products. So if you're already doing Fiori, which most of you are, you're absolutely on the right track, because Fiori is definitely here to stay. It's the target design for all our products. And you can see here also multi-device, multi-sensory assisted. So we are, and you'll see this when I come to the Fiori 3 target design, we're really taking in those aspects that are technically possible to make the user's life easier, get their job done more easily. Other aspects of the Intelligent Suite, modularization, make it easy to consume, cost-effective to operate, obviously easy to extend. That's something also we've heard feedback that we're working on making that, of course, easier, better with Fiori. And finally, intelligence, of course, embedding that everywhere that it makes sense, of course, to, automate if you can, obviously. If you don't have to even do anything, the system does it for you, that's optimal, or also give you guidance. And I'll be showing you how we have target designs for bringing up intelligence in the user experience as part of Fiori 3. So that's also number 5 there, something that is an important part of number 2, the consistent best-in-class user experience. So, Fiori. We've been evolving it, and Fiori 3 is the next evolutionary step. And that's important, evolution. So if you're already using Fiori, and especially if you've built your own Fiori apps, they will continue to run with Fiori 3. So that's the good news there, right? So don't worry about there's no break or anything like that. Just from a historical point of view, we started out 2013 with the very first Fiori apps focused more on the casual user, sort of also mobile, so leave requests or manager approvals, this kind of stuff. Then we looked at what would power users or desktop users need, professional users who are working on the desktop primarily, and we brought in Fiori 2.0 with more powerful patterns like an object page, list reports, and so on that you can use on the desktop. And even then, Fiori 2.0 didn't come out in one big bang. We incrementally improved it. For example, we then also extended to have a native experience. So we had a partnership with Apple started 3 years ago for iOS, so native iOS apps, and it's actually called Fiori for iOS. So we agreed from a branding point of view with Apple that we can call it Fiori for iOS. So it really is Fiori following the iOS design paradigms, but also following the Fiori design paradigms. Very powerful SDK available there now. We got feedback from the mentors yesterday. They really love the features we have in the SDK there. And last year we also started providing that for Android. Maybe just a brief explanation, why are we doing this native? We've always said Fiori, and it continues to be the case. Fiori with HTML5, you can run it on the desktop, you can run it on the tablet, you can run it on the iPhone, and I'll be showing you demos of that in a moment. So why native? Well, there are simply use cases where people are on the road, say, all the time, and the tool they always use is this application. Maybe people who are doing maintenance engineers out on the road maintaining equipment, they need to know where to go, what equipment to load. They do the status, they take photos, all this kind of stuff. Well, there you really, and especially they might even have offline, they might not even have a connection, or the connection might break. So there you really need for perfect experience, you do want to have a native experience. For many other experiences, you can get away certainly with HTML5. I mean, that's perfectly okay. It's just not quite as nice and fluent, of course, as a native one. So we give you the choice, basically. You can do it HTML5, but if you have specific cases, you can use the SDKs for mobile. What we've also introduced last year, SAP Copilot, so the first steps towards a conversational user experience, and that's something you'll see we'll be integrating far more in Fiori 3. So basically with Fiori 3, what we're doing is we're taking these innovative ideas, and on top of that then adding consistency, looking at how we can bring more intelligence into the system, and also leverage integration to get an even better user experience. So that's really Fiori 3. And you'll see later, consistency, intelligence, integrated, those are the three focus areas that I'll be showing you how we're addressing those with Fiori 3. And as it says here, first step is available today. So in fact, these screenshots here are from S/4HANA. But that's just the first step. So it really is a journey that we're on with Fiori 3 now. So as I said, Fiori 3 is a new target design for all of our products to fully support the Intelligent Suite, obviously make it flexible, simple, easy to use. We always have as a goal, the last line there, make their work easier. So the goal is always to make it easier for people to get their job done. And like I said, we're introducing it step by step with the first step available today. So what is available today? Well, if you just look at it from an S/4HANA point of view, you might say, well, what's the big deal? I mean, you'll see it for a moment. It's like the new theme and the new shell header. But of course, if you think about it from a consistency point of view, we're not only doing this in S4, we're doing this in SuccessFactors, we're doing this in Concur, we're doing this in C4, the various C4 products, of course, so the whole suite. If you have users who are using more than one of them, then of course it is a big deal having it all look the same. And so you'll see here what we have is the new theme, Quartz Light. So Jürgen already showed this in the keynote, some of the screens you saw there. So it's a lighter, more neutral color, basically to blend more in the background so the content takes center stage. And of course, at the moment, if we just have tiles on the screen, maybe the content's not quite that interesting as we have in the vision with cards and much richer content. So that's why it's important to have the background more in the background and not distracting you so much. Here you see an example, and I'll show you a demo in a moment live, but here you see an example of an application. So it's kind of minimalistic, quite cool design. It's also easy for you to brand it yourself as a customer because it's not so colorful and so on. By the way, if you have already got your own custom theme, don't worry, that will continue to work even if you go to Fiori 3. So that's also important. You don't have to kind of redo everything. And in fact, if you happen to want to stay on the Belize theme, you can also do that. That's also available. You just get the new shell header then. So the new shell header bar here, that replaces the viewport that we used to have. So we simplified it. We've aligned across all the various product units, and I'll explain that also later. So we don't have the home button anymore. Instead, you click on the logo. We've introduced actually nice navigation if you're on the home page. I'll show you that in the demo. And we've moved all the various product-specific actions to the right. So also the user actions menu here on the right, replacing the me area. Basically, we aligned with all the various cloud units, and that is typically standard practice in web products, is to have this kind of menu on the right. So we said, okay, S4 doesn't have it that way, all the other products do, so we moved S4 that way rather than trying to force them to move the other way. So that's why we have it like that, standardizing so that we really can have a consistent experience across our products. What we also have is for S4HANA, of course, we do have, especially on premise, as you know, probably over 100,000 transactions. So we can't just kind of click our fingers and say, let's just convert them all to Fiori, right? So we're going to, of course, we are step by step looking at priorities and building more and more Fiori apps for S4HANA, of course. So what we've done is we've applied the theme and, of course, the shell header also to the what we call the classic UIs like SAP GUI and WebDynPro. And here you see simply an example of how we've done that. So you have the toolbar, the right-aligned labels, the same font, the 72 font, and so on. And actually, I'll show you also on a demo, because with S4HANA 1909, you can also do the classic UIs on a tablet. We've actually released that now as well. So you can really mobile, not only have the Fiori apps on a tablet, you can also access the classic UIs. And just important also to mention on the top right, if you're using SAP GUI for Windows in the business client, which you can do, you can give all the users a launchpad, start the Fiori apps there, but also start SAP GUI for Windows from the launchpad in the business client. The new Quartz theme will be coming next year for the business client for SAP GUI for Windows. But if you're in the HTML space and SAP GUI for HTML, if you've used it in the past and you thought it was a bit slow, don't worry, it's got much faster these last couple of years. So you really can give your users a launchpad to access everything. So not just the Fiori apps, also the classic UIs in the browser. That works from a performance point of view, that works fine. And basically, this is, in other words, if you see here the recommendation we have with S4HANA, Fiori as the user experience, give every user the launchpad as the entry point. So all the transactions that they start, all the Fiori apps, give them a tile for that, or you can even have groups of links. So if it's transactions, you maybe don't want to have tiles because there's not much other than the text of the name of the transaction. Give them links, for example. Also, don't put every single transaction and tile on the homepage. Just put the stuff that they use regularly, and you can access everything else then via the menu, which I'll show you, or via, of course, the search or app finder. What we're doing is providing innovations using Fiori. So we're doing the end-user research, how do people work these days, providing the Fiori apps for them, like overview pages, for example, or these analytical list pages. And then, of course, from that, you can see what you need to do. You can go drill down the details, and on the left, bottom left, you see a Fiori app, an object page for getting the details, and on the right, you see a SAP GUI for getting the details. So we have this seamless navigation in place that you can go from one to the other. You don't have new windows opening up if you go from Fiori to SAP GUI. It's all in place. You can navigate between the two very smoothly so that you have a coherent, at least visual experience. Of course, the interaction of the SAP GUI is still the SAP GUI interaction, but at least you have a much more coherent experience. And the users profit from all the features you have in the shell bar, so especially search. I mean, everyone Googles these days, right? Well, you want to give your people the chance to Google through an SAP system. Well, you can with enterprise search. And even if you're wherever you are, if you're on the classic UI or on a Fiori app, you always have the shell bar. You can always access search. You can find stuff really, really quickly. So give your users that innovation. That's important. And let me show you. So I'll start on the desktop. I've got a tablet here and an iPhone as well to show you that. Let me first of all show you on the desktop. So this is an S4HANA Cloud 1908 system. So I'm logged on here in all three cases as in procurement. So you see the theme, the navigation as before that you have with the tabs at the top. Let's open up, for example, this little application here. The same one that we showed, that you saw on the screenshot, so you can get an idea, how that looks like. You can even filter here, this kind of stuff. So a bit of looking ahead at intelligence, also so explanation of how the ranking is calculated, this kind of stuff. That's actually also a Fiori 3 pattern that I'll be explaining a bit later. And maybe also just open up the overview page, just so you get an idea what that looks like. And by the way, intentionally here, I've logged on actually to a system that is sitting in Germany, just so you get an impression of, performance really actually is not too bad. If you think about it, you'd have to call up about 14 different SAP GUI transactions, have a pen and paper, probably call them up with different filter values to get all this information just at one point. And like I said, the server's in Germany actually, not here. And we do have demo systems in the US as well. The tablet and iPhone are connected to the US ones. This is connected to a German system. So clicking on the logo takes you to the home page, so there's no home button. When you're on the home page, this is a pretty neat new feature with Fiori 3. You have this navigation here, and you can go to, okay, it's a demo effect here. Maybe the network isn't so fast after all. So basically you can, if you want to find applications, of course, if it's on the home page, you can obviously navigate here. If you want to go to a less frequently used one, typically you could either just use search and just type in the name if you know the name, like you'd probably do on Windows desktop, if you're looking for a calculator or something. You can, of course, also use the app finder to find the apps. That's unchanged. But what's new is precisely if you're on the home page, this menu, which I hope, well, there we go. And here now you can access directly using this menu all the items that are in the app finder. So you can have, your frequently used stuff here on the desktop. And if you want to start an app that you don't use so often, you can very quickly just go here and find the group. And of course, we would advise you as a customer to define the catalogs so that these groups are, or these items here are, of course, much more, well, not so many for the user, a manageable amount, so they can quickly find what they want, and then you can navigate directly to the app that way. What you can also do is if you're actually want to navigate to your homepage app, so here you see, let's say, supplier evaluation as a group, you see here also supplier evaluation, and then also you can open up the apps directly out of this little menu here as well. So that's quite a neat new feature there. It should really make it easier for users working on the Launchpad. So here on the right, the user actions menu, like I showed, so basically you've got all the various activities here. If I go to settings, for example, you see here, this is the SAP Quartz Light theme. We still have the Belize. We also have the high contrast themes for visually impaired. And of course you have the other settings as well, unchanged. Basically, notifications you see here as before. What's also now different from a design point of view is the help. So if you have that before, and if you've seen that before in S/4HANA Cloud, it used to come out at the bottom. Now we have it on the right, and you get assistance. If you click on a field, you get the information, etc. that way. Copilot also, if you're using that, has, of course, a design that's matching now the new Fiori 3 look. You can chat, exchange screenshots, all this kind of stuff, and search, of course. So that was it on the desktop. Let me show you now on maybe on the tablet to start with. So I'll just switch over and do that. So same thing again. This is now hooked up actually to US system. If I go into the overview page, for example, just so you get to see that, then you see same as what we saw before, pretty much perhaps slightly different data because it's a different system, but it's a kind of demo system. So just so you get that idea. And what I wanted to show you on the tablet is, of course, not just, if I click on the logo here, I go to the home. If I go to purchase order processing, just as an example, you see this create purchase order advanced, the second one on the top left. If I click on that tile, that's going to start a classic UI on the tablet. And there you go. I mean, so you see the theme. Of course, it still looks like a SAP GUI. In fact, you can use your finger, move. So it really is kind of touch enabled. I'll just close this now, get more space here. Maybe just close the header so you get an impression. You can enter the material numbers and so on a tablet. So that's pretty cool, I think. And again, you see you have the shell header. So wherever you are, this is a classic UI. You can, do search. Should be able to do search. Yeah, there you go. Do search. Sorry, there you go. And of course, you have Copilot and notifications and so on available to you. So really give all your users the Launchpad. And let me show you also on a mobile phone. So again, this is the homepage. There you go. And if I click on the overview page, there you see what an overview page looks like on the mobile phone. So same cards, of course. And let me even just as an example go here a bit into detail. So monitor purchase requisition items. If I click on the header here, that actually opens up the app with all the details. So here you see the various items shown, and you can click on an item to go to the actual requisition item itself, look at the details. So here you see this has been approved, etc., etc. So there you get the idea of how it's also working on mobile. Okay, so that was a bit of a demo here of Fiori 3 as it's available today in S/4HANA. Maybe you just need more patience. So I'll go to the presentation. So maybe. Okay, there we go. Wait. Yeah, and by the way, you can see here if you want, there's a YouTube video that I did showing Fiori 3, so if you want to share this with your colleagues, you can have a look at that. There's a blog also explaining about how the first parts are available and what's coming. So do have a look at that afterwards if you're interested. So coming now to the target design, like I mentioned. So we have a lot more in there. So of course, SAP Copilot is the digital assistant. I'll show you some examples. Central search, of course, central search meaning across more than one product, not just the enterprise search in S4. Central inbox, coherent applications, embedded AI, analytics, dynamic situations, even profound analytics, which is basically what we have in the SAP Analytics Cloud, powerful workspaces. So all of this we have as our target. So it really is going to take a while, of course, to get there everywhere. And like I mentioned before, consistency is important. I've already mentioned quite a lot about that. Intelligence and integration. And those are the three sections now I want to show you with our target design. So consistency, harmonized look and feel, of course. Intelligence, guiding the user, helping the user. Digital assistant, of course. And integration, of course, avoiding having to log on everywhere, getting data from multiple systems if you need it, rather than you having to search for it, having it in one screen, this kind of stuff. So let's have a look at consistency. And I've already talked quite a lot about that, so we can probably do this quite quickly. So if you look at today, often you see various applications looking, each of them perhaps quite nice for itself, but not very consistent across the various applications and across the products that we have. So what we've done is we've sat together with the cloud units. We've established something we call a design council with the design leads of each of the products. And we took back then Fiori 2.0 as a starting point and asked them, what is missing if you had to adopt this in your product? And the good news is, of course, after initial sort of, we couldn't possibly, and the usual human resistance to change, they actually realized, in fact, pretty much everything that we have in the Fiori design actually fits for building these kind of applications. Of course, there were some things where they wanted extensions. I think the most prominent area, actually, where they said we really need to go beyond what we have with Fiori 2.0 is the design of the home pages. Where we just have the tiles and the links. They want to have much richer content on these landing pages, on these home pages, and that's probably the biggest obvious change in Fiori, alongside, of course, the theme and the header. So we agreed on this. All the products have signed it off. This is the target design for SAP. So consistency, of course, means things like which type do you use, which font. So we use this SAP typeface 72, which is a little bit like Helvetica, but for the screen rather than for printing. So it's a really beautiful typeface. It's very subtle, so it's hard for me. I'm not really a designer to explain, but if you look at pages that have 72, they just look nice. So it's just the way it is. Of course, they're standardizing the colors, so the quartz theme that I showed you, but also colors for showing, highlighting. Red for critical, green, which flavor of red do you use, which kind of green, and so on. So these are all standardized icons as well. We have an icon library, et cetera, et cetera. We're also going forward then in the future standardizing the controls and the floor plans to use where to place the action buttons, these kind of things, what's the layout, and so on. So that's important for consistency. For the moment, we've standardized on the theme and the shell header. So and then going forward, we're going to be moving in the other directions as well, and of course the home page. We have the new theme. So you've seen the Quartz Light. We actually have Quartz Dark in preparation, and that's something actually I wanted to show you. Maybe I can do this in parallel and then show it to you very briefly. Just a preview of the that theme. So while that's loading, I'll come to the consistency. So of course, as you can see, I mean, Jürgen showed this already in his keynote, we have different products have different shell headers. Probably the only common denominator is you have SAP somewhere on it. So we've standardized on the shell header I showed you for S/4HANA. Here, in fact, we have the Copilot in the center. That's not yet there, it's still on the right. What you also see here is this product switcher. So the idea there is, it's a kind of a simple, quick fix, if you like, for integration across products. If you're on S/4HANA in the homepage and you want to go to SuccessFactors, you can kind of, and you're allowed to, of course, from an authorization point of view, you can click on the product switch, you'd see SuccessFactors there, click on that, and then you'd be on the SuccessFactors homepage. And if you had maybe a Ariba or Concur, you could do the same and move to their homepage. So that way you can very simply switch between homepages. Going forward, we have, of course, more integration planned, but that's a very simple kind of integration, and that's what we have standardized on across the units, and hopefully next year we'll have the first product switcher actually available. Yeah, and here we go. You see now, this is a preview of the Quartz Dark theme, and you can see here we even have a group of links. So here you have tiles, and here you actually have links. So you can have groups of links also on the homepage if you have more, especially for classic UIs, to quickly access that way. Okay, so consistency of the shell design, consistency of navigation is important. So we're standardizing on having multiple pages. In fact, I'll come to that in a moment, and then having a navigation between the pages. So today, of course, different products have different ways of navigation with a kind of hierarchical menu or whatever. And we're standardizing also on the consistency of the home pages themselves. So basically we're adding, we still have tiles, so you can see here on the right we have the tiles, but we're also adding now much richer content in the form of these cards, where you can have, like on an overview page, you have a list of, or you could have charts, etc., and then drill down from there. And the idea is that you could have multiple pages, so you could have, let's say, your own personal home page, if you like. You could have then, if you're in sales, you have your sales page. If of course, you're an employee, so you'd have maybe an employee page, where you have that kind of stuff. Maybe you're a manager, so you'd have a manager page, or a team. You could even have multiple ones. So that's the idea there, that you could have then, for the different roles you have, different pages. And you can even see here on the navigation, with the questions at the end, because of the recording, sorry, we're being flexible with navigation. So, for example, Sales Cloud, they have already today got this way of navigating also on the left to get directly to places. And, of course, they have to take their users with them. So we've allowed a certain amount of flexibility in the Fiori 3 design to have that kind of compatibility for users in that sense. So home pages, like I said, of course, the various products have different home pages. We are standardizing on this design here with the product-specific homes. You could have a central home even, so we're working on the idea of having a central launchpad where you can have content from multiple products, and I'll show you that later on the integration side, and then tiles and cards. Featured group potentially as well that can push content. I'll come to that also on the intelligence part. We also have this spaces concept. So I've already told you a little bit about the idea that you could have multiple pages. If it's just one page, then it's just a page, of course, but you could also have, sorry, a bit too fast. You could also have a space. So the employee services would be a space that has multiple pages. So you have here even then 4 pages in this case as a way of grouping and navigating that way. So that's rather than having today's homepage where you have a long list and you scroll, we want to have different pages, and you can even have sub-pages. So it's a bit of a different approach. So that was consistency very quickly. So let's have a look at intelligence. So what makes a system intelligent for a user? Well, you could almost say it the other way around. I mean, if it's a dumb system, then the user's going to know, right? I mean, a dumb system, doesn't really help you much. You maybe have to give in some data and then you get some response. But intelligence means the system is really thinking for you, helping you, guiding you, etc. And so we have these 4 areas where we're working on including intelligence into Fiori 3. So, of course, natural language interaction is going to play an important role going forward. I mean, this is probably a multi-year journey, of course. We're still early days with natural language interaction, but I think it's going to be a really big thing for the user experience the next 10 years, and machine intelligence as well. And so we've got these 4 aspects, and I'll show you a little bit more detail. So intelligent personalizable home pages, so the home page can also be intelligent. Then, of course, we want to put intelligence into the applications themselves. Then, of course, a digital assistant helping you, so not necessarily in the application, but kind of next to the application or wherever you are, maybe mobile or whatever, if you want to work with the system. And then as a special kind of intelligence, we have this business situation handling, which is really powerful, and I'll show you an example. So let's start with the home pages. So basically, we have the idea that you could have, basically users can of course personalize the home page to fit their needs. But what we want to do is, what we're thinking about is having a sort of area, maybe a featured area at the top, where the system can push things to you that you haven't necessarily personalized. So maybe you're traveling tomorrow and there's some kind of roadblock or some kind of flooding or whatever, so you could get some kind of the system pushing that information to you, right? Or you might have some kind of outage or something that's really important for you, and you don't have that information per se on your normal homepage, and that could be pushed by the system. So that's the idea of having this sort of intelligent dynamic area, maybe also with your recently used apps and this kind of stuff. And then the area down below where you can pin the content that you've done yourself, that the user has pinned himself or herself. So number 2 is that the cards themselves can of course have intelligence in them. So I mean basically a very simple example here is this leads list is actually based on a scoring model that's calculated the likelihood. So you're not going to waste your time with unlikely leads. You can basically focus on the leads that are most likely to become real customers. And by showing that already in the card, that's already guiding you. You know, this is where it's worth you spending your time. And then finally, notifications, of course, something that's already available with Fiori 2.0. Obviously still available. The system can proactively push important stuff to you via notifications. Of course, not only on the home page, but of course in the shell, always available to you. So that's kind of the home page. Let's have a look now at embedding intelligence into applications. So I've taken the same example we had on the card. So this would be if you clicked on the header of the card, you'd go to the application for this leads, my hot leads. And here the list is ranked based on this scoring model. So of course that's a very simple way of bringing intelligence in. You know, you've got a ranking. So the top stuff is the stuff to look at. What's important always is that, especially with the more intelligent the system becomes, is that the users trust the system. You know, if the system's doing all sorts of stuff that you don't understand, then you start sort of, whoa, what's happening here, right? So it's important that you can also get an explanation. And so we have standardized from a design point of view, and you saw that a little bit in the demo, having this kind of explanation component. So it's actually a popover. You know, from a design point of view, we could have had a side panel, or you could have the list expand, or have the information at the bottom. But so you have to have some kind of standardization to get consistency. So we standardize on this kind of popover, and you see at the top here contributing factors to the score. So that's how a user can understand, okay, I understand that's how the score has been calculated, or these are the factors that contribute to it. And here another part which also goes into integration, not just intelligence, is it's actually pulled information from other systems to give you more context there. And of course for a user, that's a pretty intelligent system, right? You've got an explanation, but it's also getting the information from the other systems that you need in that particular context. So that of course seems pretty intelligent for a user. Even though it's an integration topic, but it's also part of intelligence. So that's, you know, some examples of embedding it in the applications. The third one is the digital assistant. And like I said, we already have Copilot. I mean, speech interaction, natural interaction is going to be, like I said, so powerful. Of course, we're at early days today, but if you think about it, you know, the iPhone is only 12 years old. 12 years is nothing. I mean, like, we can remember back in Germany, we had the Football World Cup, big thing in Germany. Germany loves football, well, Europe does. Big thing for us, 2006, you know, everyone happy. I asked people, you know, what was the most popular app back in those days? Well, there wasn't any, because the iPhone came out a year later. You know, for all of us, it's like a very fresh memory. Well, similarly, you know, in this kind of time frame, maybe 10 years or so, we'll all be talking with our systems, absolutely normal. And you can work so much more effectively, you know. Give me the order I was working on yesterday. There it is. You don't have to sort of find the apps, filter, and so on. And of course, if you're on the go, you can do stuff as well. So, I mean, we'll see all sorts of interesting applications. I mean, you'll definitely continue having a visual UI. And this is where you see here on the design point of view, if you're at the desktop, why not even use the space that you have? So you could have, let's say at the top, maybe a briefing. Maybe I'm a plant manager, so I come in the morning, I want to know, well, what happened overnight? Is there anything I need to know about? And the system could tell you, well, everything's fine, except this machine seems to be a bit overheating, and then you get a little graph showing, whatever. So use those visual elements as well together with the language. And that's the vision we have for the digital assistant. And of course, accessing it wherever you are. So if you see in the bottom left, a lot of people spend their time working in Slack. Well, if you're at the desktop, but you've got Slack open, do you have to open up the Fiori Launchpad to access your digital assistant? Well, no. Why not just chat in Slack and get the answers that way? So that's also what we're thinking. Wherever you are, mobile, of course, you have the app, but even on the desktop, if you're in Slack or Teams, you can chat that way. Okay, finally, situation handling. This is really powerful. It's not at all rocket science. It's really simple principle. But by having that kind of everywhere in the system, I'm convinced that'll be a big significant step towards providing intelligence to the user. So what's the idea behind situation handling? So basically you have a business situation that needs to be dealt with. And that's not a sort of day-to-day thing like, a truck is arriving and giving you a delivery. I mean, that would be a normal work list or whatever. This is more stuff that's a little bit more out of the ordinary. So in this case, in this example, someone's, say, fallen ill. So project milestones at risk. Or another example is maybe I have a contract negotiated with a supplier and it's going to expire in 3 months' time. So I have to deal with it. What am I going to do, right? So there's a rule or a trigger. There's a condition basically that then says, okay, this condition is now fulfilled. The situation is there. That's the trigger. You get a notification. What we want to do is, for example, if you have a list of, let's say, contracts, you'd see one of them highlighted because that has a situation associated with it. So we're bringing these elements into the design. The next one is the context. So you get an explanation. What's the problem? And what happens if you don't solve it? So in this case, you see here, okay, the milestone's at risk. You're going to miss it. And then potentially even, if you could solve it this way. With the contract, you'd probably have higher purchasing costs if you don't have a contract in place, so that would be the problem. And then the really cool part is the solutions. The system actually proposes a solution how to solve it. And in this case, there are even 3, so you could have more than one proposal. It would be ranked, so the system would say this is our recommended, but you could also do this or that. And here, for example, the recommendation is hire someone externally quickly to fix that. But an alternative is take someone from another internal project. Or a third one is ask people to do overtime. Okay. With the contract example, you can see how the machine, how machine intelligence or knowledge that the machine has could help. So let's say the contract's going to expire in 3 months' time. Well, the kind of no-brainer, obvious thing is, well, let's just prolong the contract, right? But the system knows how happy you are with the supplier. So basically, let's say the supplier doesn't deliver on time often, and the quality is not good, and the invoices don't match what they've delivered. So you're not really happy with this supplier. Well, the system knows that, so actually the number one recommendation might be choose a different supplier. And you might even have already other suppliers for the material, and one of them you don't use so often, so you might even recommend let's use this supplier. And only the number 2 would be prolong the contract. So you can see how very easily the system could, using the information you have, make a recommendation. And for a user, that's just so cool because you've got all the information there that you need. Otherwise, you get, oh God, the contract's going to expire. You'd have to find out, look, how happy are we with this supplier, get the information, and it's there here at your fingertips on this page. And so with Fiori 3, we're planning to provide this situation page that summarizes everything. And for those of you already on S/4HANA, we actually already have now with 1909 very first steps of situation handling. So we do already have some situations in the system. We don't yet have this situation page, but we've got a sort of facet in the object page that has a bit of an explanation. So we have some nice situations already there. There's a framework there. You can even start developing your own situations where we're building out that next year. So with this situation handling, we'll have not only things like this situation page and standardized situations, but for you, especially as developers, you'll be able to develop your own situations. And I think that'll be then very powerful because obviously depending on your business, you might want to be faster than SAP is in providing these standard situations. Okay, so integration, of course, is also important. And how does that manifest itself on the user experience? Well, basically, it eliminates, of course, time-consuming cross-product navigation. So you don't have to log on to different systems, have different windows open, jump between the windows. Especially important are things like universal inbox. I mean, Jürgen mentioned this. You don't want to have to log on to 5 different systems to check the inbox to see if there's anything for you to do. You want to have just one list. Similarly with tasks or also notifications. I mean, you want to have one place where you get notified, ideally perhaps even your mobile phone, and not have to log on to different systems to get notifications, right? So here's an example of integration on the home page. So to start off with, we're looking at having this kind of central entry point. So this is like a launchpad, homepage, where the user can take content from the different systems they're allowed to use. So here for an employee, you might have some success factors, maybe for vacation and so on. Maybe you're working on S/4HANA Cloud, typically for business. Concur for travel, Ariba, if you're buying laptops and stuff like that. So you could have that on your homepage, taking you to the different systems. Or as a manager, another example here, of course, you'd have maybe success factors for managing a team, Fieldglass because you're also hiring people, so consultants, and then S/4HANA Cloud for maybe financial aspects and so on. So that's the idea of the central entry point as an additional. This would, of course, be in the cloud. The portal cloud would provide this. This is the target. And then, of course, the other aspect is, like I mentioned, the inbox. So you have one inbox with items from different systems. And, of course, the idea is that you can click on the item and that takes you directly to that item in that system. So with single sign-on, you don't have, ideally, no new windows opening, this kind of stuff kind of in place. That'll probably take a while technically to get there. And another example, of course, is if you're actually working in an application that needs information from different systems, then put it in the screen. So here we have, let's say, from a total workforce management, one of these end-to-end scenarios I was talking about, employee onboarding. So you're starting out a project, you've got some people from your team, or maybe you've got some new hired people, and you have some external consultants, and you have to onboard them all. What's the goal of the project, who's involved, et cetera, et cetera. And so here you see a little application for helping the HR guys onboard people, and here the first 2 here are employees, and the third person here is an external consultant, and you're getting information then from SuccessFactors for the employees and from Fieldglass for the consultants, but it's all in one UI. Because that's your job, right? It doesn't matter for you where the people come from, it's the same task. So put the information together in one screen. That's integration. And similarly here, for design to operate, that's another of the big end-to-end scenarios that we're looking at. Collecting feedback. You could get feedback from customer service, from innovation management, social media, IoT sensors potentially. So, wherever you're getting feedback, put that in one place and then consolidate it. So, these are just design ideas at the moment, but give you the idea of what we're pushing development to do with Fiori 3. Okay, so wrapping up now, the path to Fiori 3. To summarize, it's co-defined with all the SAP product units, like I showed. So they've agreed, they signed off, this is the target design. It's independent of UI technology. This is important for you guys if you're developing. Because, of course, the cloud units, we've acquired these companies, they've got their products out there, they've got their own UI technologies, some even with modern Angular React, some, of course, older technologies. And we just can't, it just doesn't make business sense to ask them to completely throw out their whole UI technology and rebuild everything with SAP UI 5. Because they probably spend a year or 2 just doing that and no new features and functions. So instead of getting nowhere, or maybe asking them to change the colors, we've said, look, you can actually follow the guidelines using your technology. So, we're even providing web components, for example, UI5 web components for tables and buttons and stuff like that, so you can reuse these. So if you have your own products that you've developed, of course, with your own whatever technology you've used, you could also follow that path to get closer to the Fiori user experience. However, if you're starting out new, I would certainly recommend use SAP UI 5 because you just have so many advantages doing that, especially if Jürgen mentioned the cloud application programming model. That's brand new now. It's been kind of released now, today more or less, or yesterday. So do have a look at that. That can make it with Fiori Elements. You can very, very easily get powerful UIs built that absolutely follow the Fiori design. So definitely do that. And of course, if you've already built apps, like it says here, non-disruptive for existing Fiori apps, you can very easily go to the Fiori 3 theme, no problem. And of course, we're standardizing not just the colors, but the shell bar, like I mentioned, and then going forward the structure, so the home pages, the cards on the home pages, and then we're going beyond that with building blocks and the floor plans for the apps, that you have an object page looking like this, or you look at a list like this. And we also want to standardize on Copilot as the digital assistant across our products. So you can talk to your assistant. You don't have to say, take me to Concur, take me to SuccessFactors. You say, hey, I need vacation or I need to book a travel, and the assistant knows where to go, right? So for S/4HANA, the first step, like you see, is available today. So you have the theme, the Quartz theme and the Launchpad shell header. Available also for the classic UIs if you're on the GUI for HTML. For GUI for Windows, like I said, next year. And what's planned next is that we provide cards on the homepage. So at the moment we just have the tiles, as you can see here. So we're planning to add cards. That'll probably be sometime next year. And also the situations concept, that we actually start having more of these things that I showed you, the situation page and so on. That'll also be something starting next year. And of course, various individual aspects like integration and so on will come step by step. Digital Assistant is probably a multi-year journey. That's the next steps for S/4HANA. So with that, say thank you. Continue, of course, your learning experience. Do engage with the community. There's, by the way, since about 2 weeks ago, I established a Fiori topic page in the SAP community. So if you look at the topics, there's now a page for Fiori where you can get all the various related blogs and comments and stuff like that. And obviously, there are quite a few other talks here related to Fiori. And with that, thank you.